What is up, guys? My name is Dave Colagiovanni. I'm the owner to SUPRA Inspections. This is the SUPRA Show Season 2 podcast edition. My co-host, Doug Tricarico, hanging out with our guest, Denise Hoffmann, the owner of Cameo Home Staging and Design. Yep. Thank you so much for being out here, Denise. We have to start here. How'd you get into home staging?
Well, thank you for having me, and thanks for asking. So there's a lot of ways you can get into home staging. I think it started with my interest from when I was young. I always was interested in decorating and design, and as a young girl, I would rearrange my room all the time, and every time my parents would come up, there would be something different in a different place, and that was very fun for me. So I had the kind of creative vibe in me from when I was a young kid. Yeah. And from there, when I was looking for jobs, I started out as a visual merchandiser for a mall, a local mall, and I would go through the mall and do all their display units.
Wow.
Seasonally, they had mannequins. They would set up mannequin displays for different seasons, and I'd get to kind of shop in the stores and take props from them and use it to, decorate my windows. I would do window displays within the mall. So I knew I always wanted to get into a creative field. And from there, I think I was one of the first home staging shows that was on TV. I started watching it and I was like, oh, this looks like something I could really do. So I moved on from retail merchandising. Neat. I was like, I could do this for a living. So I got out of retail and I kind of started my own company, and I said, okay, this is home staging. No one really knew what it was when I started, like over 15 years ago, but it's become very popular now. And, that's kind of how I got into it. It helps if you have a creative sense about you, and then from there you can go and get the training and go from there.
It's funny.
Excellent.
Never know where you get your inspiration from.
No, without a doubt, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I could relate to that too, like sort of like rearranging stuff, and my wife and I, we got 3 kids. We're always into like just, and I think someone would really vibe with that background that you have. So what areas do you do business in?
So I go to Westchester County, Putnam County, and Dutchess County in New York, and I also go into Connecticut a lot. A lot of work in Connecticut.
Cool. Yeah. So now, becoming a home stager, there's some being certified, some licensure or whatnot. How does somebody sort of, take part in becoming a home stager? What's that process look like?
There's definitely staging companies around that will certify you. You go through a training program. There's a couple of them out there. And it's really best to have that certification. It's not necessarily a license like with the realtor, but it puts the credentials behind what you do and behind your name and your company.
Definitely.
To know that you were certified by a large company who does this for a living, who's been doing it for a long time. So definitely that's the way to go. Some people just start doing it on the side without any training because they know they can do it. And staging and decorating is fun. It's amazing. It's lots of stories to tell.
Wow.
But it's also, you have to know how to run a business. And that's where, the companies will train you how to run the business properly, how best to serve the clients while still, improving the business in the way that it could sustain you and you could do it for a living and continue to help people sell their homes.
What is home staging and what value do you provide to the sellers?
So home staging is... it's a profession dedicated solely to helping the house sell quickly and for the most profit possible. And it's done by addressing the interior decor and exterior decor sometimes of how the home presents itself.
Yeah.
So
you guys like mow lawns?
We don't necessarily mow lawns. We'll hire someone to do that if it needs it, or we'll let the homeowner know you got to get this lawn mowed. So it helps market the house. It's a way to help market the house, make it most presentable for when it goes, online, for all the photos and everything that people are going to see online. So that's really important. So it definitely helps present it in the best possible light, which also brings the best possible money. So if your home looks better than all the other ones out there because no one else has professionally staged their home, you can tell the difference immediately. You'll again see it transfer from the online photos, to all the social media marketing out there. And the stats are really positive. In fact, the National Association of Realtors has a whole home staging section on their website.
Really?
And you can really get anywhere, if you stage your home, you can get anywhere from like 10 to 20% more money for it because it's more valuable. and it sells like 6 to 12% quicker. Those are the kind of the latest stats, especially if the home is vacant. We could talk about that later, but if the home is vacant, it takes much longer to sell. So I get a lot of calls for that.
Really, Doug? What's like? Do you? I mean, is that? I mean, I'm sure that's true. Like, how do you feel like when you're selling a home, or even when you're working with a buyer? How much does like staging really matter in that real estate deal?
So it's something that I would definitely budget for, especially if I was doing a flip. Denise actually staged a house that we were flipping a few years ago, and we were struggling to get it sold. And before she even got out of the house, somebody came in and was making an offer that day.
That's right. I remember that.
And it was incredible. It's something that going forward, I'm definitely going to budget for because it works.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line.
In that instance, in that particular, I'll never forget because I couldn't have, it's like I paid this lady. It's my last day. I was cleaning up my tools, trying to get out of there because I knew you had the buyer coming. I was like, does she have to come now? And of course, you're not going to turn away a potential buyer. So I was getting my stuff out. And even before she got in the house, she was like, oh my God, this looks like a showroom, a show house. I have to have this. She was barely in the house. And I was like, see, Doug, I told you, like, I couldn't have set that up better myself. I didn't pay her nothing. And
I mean, it was funny. Like, even the clothes they were wearing matched the colors of the furniture, and it was like, it was meant to be. Meanwhile, this house was on the market for like 45 days, and we weren't getting any really good offers. We were like, oh, we just got to get it sold. And sure enough, we ended up getting over we had dropped the price, and we ended up getting over the asking point at the price at that point, just because she did such a great job, and it created a much more welcoming environment when they came in the house.
Is there like a home staging like technique or like something like, how would people know if someone goes into a home for sale? How would they know that like you staged it? Is there something that you do very specifically for your staging that you just really like? I really want to put an extra vase on this table, or just I want to make this bed. Is there something?
What's your signature?
What's your signature?
My signature?
Long question. What's the signature?
Let's see. I mean, there are a couple of things actually, not necessarily a specific like one thing that you'll know it's me, but what I like to do, as opposed to some other home stagers that I've seen, they kind of, when you do train, they teach home staging that it's, you don't want to over decorate. You just want to do enough to make it interesting and not have them focus on the furniture. But from the stagings that I've seen, it's like people just kind of the stagers sometimes just take whatever they have laying around and put it there. And it doesn't really go and create like a uniform look. So I definitely pay a little bit more attention to the design. You
got like themes or something like that?
Not necessarily themes, but I add a little bit more than what they tell you to add. Like if I am looking at the corner of the room and I'm picturing like a picture with blue wavy lines on it and with green undertones, I'm like, I can't get that out of my head. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist in that way, so I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to buy that and absorb that into my inventory because I know that that's going to really finish off the space. And like I said, a lot of stagers will just kind of throw up anything. It doesn't really match. So I definitely add a little bit more. And another thing that I like to do, and stagers, they say not to do this, but in certain cases I think it really makes the room. I like to put up curtains.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times I go into homes, whether they're vacant or even when they're furnished already, they don't have curtains, or the curtains they have are really old and outdated. And I think it kind of, they say the windows are like the eyes of the house. Yeah. So if you frame them the right way, it really kind of pulls the room together and it makes it warm and inviting, like you were saying. So that's one thing that I do probably a little bit more than other stagers.
With vacant houses, especially some of these rooms that you have like an odd shaped room, staging really helps to show the buyer how this space can live. Whereas if they walk in, they may see an odd-shaped living room and not really figure out where their couch can go. And this allows them not to think. They can
see
come
like a
in
small bedroom, like that's
it.
an office for sure.
Yeah. And that happens all the time. And in fact, that's what realtors and homeowners call me for when they've maybe been on the market already. They're not getting the feedback they want or they're not getting the interest they want in the traffic because the feedback is, they don't understand the space and people think it's too small. I had a situation like that with a house I did for a realtor. He's like, it's just not selling. People keep coming in and saying they can't fit any furniture in here. And it's because that 95% of people don't have the vision to do something like this. They only see what's right in front of them. If they see like broken down walls and ratty looking furniture that they can't get past it, or if they see a vacant house, They can't picture where things are going to go. So we did exactly that. We furnished a small room, and I fit every piece of furniture that you would think. I even fit a dining table where there shouldn't have been one. I didn't think there was room. We had couches set up, and it sold right after that. And he, swears up and down that's the reason it sold, because the furniture showed that it wasn't as bad as people think. And that's, people always will go through the house and kind of make a laundry list of all the negative things, potential buyers. So if you stage it for them and take all the negatives away, then they can't do that. If it's professionally done, they're going to walk through, and instead of nitpicking and saying, oh, this isn't here and this is missing and that looks bad, it's going to look gorgeous. So you're not going to have that issue with the home staging.
I mean, it also helps when some people have this raggedy old furniture. They walk in and it's like it's not comfortable. Whereas with the staged house, and again shown in its best light, they can come in, sit down on the couch, then envision themselves living there. Whereas if it's this raggedy old couch that's ripped up, someone's not going to necessarily come in, sit down, and really take in the space.
Yeah, they're not going to want to go anywhere near the raggedy couch, and what happens is, like I said, they kind of make a negative list in their head. They'll be like, oh, wow, if, there's a dead plant in the corner and the couch is all stained and there's animal hair all over here, then they probably didn't take care of the undercarriage of the house, the rest of it, if they're not maintaining what I see in front of me, what's behind the walls, something that you look at, So even though it may not be true, the first impressions are so important. Like when you walk into the home, if you start seeing all those things that kind of look like the furniture's really outdated and it hasn't been maintained, that's going to negatively affect, how people perceive the house and how much it's worth. So maybe they'll make an offer, but it's not going to be a top of the line offer. It's going to be like, oh, well, I have to do this and I have to paint and I have to, clean the floors and this is stained and that's dripping. And so, they'll make that list and will, give you a lowball offer, which staging will help avoid.
Have you had situations where people came in, not only bought the house, but bought the furniture?
That happens. That happens sometimes, yeah. Because it does. The houses do look good when they're professionally done. And I did have a couple of cases where, if not, they didn't maybe buy every single piece, but they bought a lot of the rooms of furniture. So sometimes what we can do is, with an occupied house, which is one that already has furniture, we'll bring in extra things and mix in with what the person already has, the homeowner already has. We'll set it up that way. And then so they might, want to buy what the stager brings in. Vacant houses happens all the time because it's done like to the nines, because you're starting out with vacant rooms. You can do whatever you want and make it look really good right from the beginning. And they'll come in and they'll say, I want the furniture included in the price of the house. And stagers are usually more than happy to sell, everything, because then we can update our inventory. So yeah, that's happened. And something else had happened, but it doesn't happen a lot. I don't want to scare the realtors off. One lady decided not to sell. She's like, I never thought I could set it up like this. This is amazing. I can't believe what you did with my furniture. And I think it was that they, I think they had tried already and they weren't having success. So she's like, you know what? I just want to experience it a little bit, the way it is, and then sell it soon after that. So a lot of odd things have happened.
So what kind of inventory does this business what kind of inventory do you need to have? And I'm assuming you got to have like a truck. Do you have a truck, or do you get someone to move it for you?
I work with people that have trucks.
Okay.
Yeah. So I work with. Sometimes I have my own things, things that I can physically carry with my assistant. So I have some of the smaller accessories and tables and chairs. I have dining room tables. But, if you can't physically carry or have room to store all that stuff, because you do need storage. You need either warehouse or rental units. I bet. I work with furniture supply companies, different ones, all around, depending on the price point of the home. So usually they'll come up, they with their own items, and they'll carry them and they'll place them, and then when the house sells, they'll come and they'll take them back out, so you don't have to do all that carrying and all that storing. But if you do, if you want to, we're not quite there yet, but if you want to do that, then yes, you have to hire a fleet of trucks and you have to hire movers, and it gets into a whole new level of owning.
How much does it cost to stage a house?
So, I mean, completely, as you know, depends on what the house is and how much work it needs. But to stage a vacant house, the typical price range I see is anywhere from like $2,000 to $10,000. It's a broad range, but it really depends on, the bulk is somewhere in the middle. But, I've done higher end homes that are $1 million homes, and they have got their staging costs have gone up to like $9,000 because they wanted me to do the whole house. And you don't have to do that all the time. You can stage the key rooms. People usually do the dining room, the primary bedroom, and the living room. Those are like the 3 key rooms to do. If you're going to do anything, those are the 3 rooms you should start with. So something like that could be in the range of like $2,500 to $4,500. That's the bulk price range for like an average house. But what I do want to bring up is at the very least, what everyone should do, and I promote this all the time, is get a staging consultation. That's such an important service for, like, if you have an occupied home, like if you're working as a realtor, if you're working with homeowners who have lived there for like 20 years and they have so much stuff and they don't know where to start and they're getting a little anxious. The best thing to do is bring in a professional home stager. What we do is we walk through the house, sometimes with the realtor and the homeowner. The 3 of us will walk together. And, we'll go room by room and tell them, well, this room looks good, but, maybe you should tweak it a little. Or, this room needs a lot of work and, you should change this and the curtains really need to go. And that piece of furniture just has to go. But this one can stay. Or we'll say, we'll take this piece of furniture, move this into this room because it's nicer looking and it's the first room you see. That happened once. We walked into this house and I was doing the consultation. And the homeowner was so proud of her furniture, but it wasn't the nicest furniture, and it was going to fit much better in the other room. So I told her, look, just flop the furniture, flip-flop it, and she did it on her own. Wow. And it just looked so much better, made such a big difference. So,
have you ever walked into a house and like, what did I just get myself into?
Each house deserves love and deserves to be sold. So yes and no. I mean, I staged a house once that was on the market. It wasn't selling. It was a condo, and it had pink carpet. And it actually wasn't in bad condition.
It's a hard sell right there.
Yeah. But since it was vacant, that's all you saw. So you'd leave the house saying, that was the house I just, as a potential buyer, that was the house with the pink carpet. So you never want anyone to say, a negative, that's the house I saw with this, flaw or that flaw. So they hired us to stage it. We did just a couple of rooms, not the whole thing. And the difference was it still had the pink carpet, but as someone in the design industry, you know what colors to bring in to negate that color, to go with that color, but not enhance it and clash with it. So you notice it, you know how to downplay it. And that's kind of what home staging does. It'll downplay the negatives and kind of camouflage what the flaws are. They'll still be there, but it paints the picture for the future, like you said, of what they can envision themselves living in. So they may look past a lot of those flaws, look past the pink carpet and be like, okay, I can deal with that for now, or this is how it'll look once I change the carpet, it'll look like this. So you don't notice it as much. So that's important too.
Do you have any success stories that you'd like to share?
Oh, there's lots of success stories. A lot of them have involved houses that, like I said, have been on the market for a really long time and weren't selling until we got in there and staged it. There was a house that had a lovely elderly lady. She was in her 80s and she was really with it, and she researched the market and she was working with the realtor and knew what her house was worth and what she wanted to sell it for. The problem was she had her furniture from when she got married, so it was very outdated and very traditional style. And because it was in perfect condition, because she kept it so pristine, she thought that that was great, that everyone would love it. But she had moved, and it wasn't the original house that she was in. She had moved into what they call, I guess, a contemporary split. So it was a super modern looking house with white walls, because someone told her to paint everything white, which I never recommend it. It was very commercial looking. You don't want to do that. Yeah. And the furniture was very traditional. So right away when you walk in, something was wrong. Maybe, if you're not in the industry, you don't know exactly why you don't love it. But the furniture did not match the style of the house at all. That was one thing. So we went through the house and I said, look, these pieces you can keep. Traditional furniture is great. It's very classic. But some of them were just too far gone and they just didn't go well. Yeah. So we did what I said. We brought in furniture and mixed it with what she had. She got rid of the pieces for me that, put them in her garage and gave them away, pieces that weren't going to work. And that house sold after being on the market for 9 months with no offers. It sold within a week. Wow. Within a week. And I have lots of stories like that. So
that's a big deal. What's so, and I feel like you've touched on this topic a little bit, but like, what's your biggest challenge to staging a house?
once we get they hire us, then just the planning process. Well, the planning process is kind of done by time because we give them a proposal. How it works is, the realtor or the homeowner will call us. We'll do the walkthrough. We'll submit a proposal, and once we're hired, the design has already kind of been planned, so we can move right away. As long as we're not booked, like in the spring, we book. We get really booked.
I think one of the biggest challenges is actually getting the homeowner on board.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was saying. Once we get the
that was
proposal,
it.
it's not really a challenge after that because the design's kind of already done. So it's because creative people in this industry, we can figure out anything. There's nothing I haven't been able to figure out.
Wow. Yeah, without a doubt.
Sometimes, with the furniture layout, sometimes you have like a corner fireplace. I know a lot of stagers complain about that. That's very hard to deal with, and it is. But, you have to
I think they're great.
Yeah, they are. They're very nice, but it's hard to set up furniture when it's in the corner, and then where's your television if that's in the same room? So it's a little tricky. But yeah, I can figure it out. So
Yeah, without a doubt.
Feng shui.
feng shui, yeah. Some stagers incorporate that. I don't incorporate it so much. You don't need to. I mean, it's nice. Like one of the feng shui things is supposed to be that your bed is supposed to be. You're supposed to walk into a bedroom and see the bed right in front of you. So that's kind of a feng shui thing. And you're not supposed to have any furniture that makes an X with like if there has for crossing and for support. That's kind of something that, you got to keep in mind. But I don't use that so much when I do it. I figure it out without it. So
What are some tips that you could share with people that are thinking right now thinking about putting their house on the market? What are some tips that you have for them?
So, definitely what I've mentioned, definitely try to I think every house should have a professional staging consultation. They're only a couple $100 and it's worth its weight in gold because it actually gets the homeowner very motivated. A lot of times after I've done the consultation, literally the realtor tells me, as soon as you left, they started making all the changes you suggested and they didn't stop. They just kept going. So it gets them very excited.
Nice.
So that's important. So definitely try to get that done and try to address the vacant houses. If you can afford to even just stage a couple of rooms in the vacant house, you don't want to, leave that empty for the reasons I said before. But also some of the basic things, you've heard this one before, take down all family photos. I know it gets a little tricky, especially if your wall's loaded with them. But any kind of collections, like people still have like little figurine collections and thimble collections and, country chicken statue collections.
Wow.
I once went into a house that had, it was right in the entryway when you walk in, clown masks, clown masks staring you right in the face when you walked in. That was
not inviting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no.
And the realtor, it was a realtor caravan, and I was, stationed at the house, so I was the last stop. So when the realtors came, I was going to give a presentation, but I didn't stage the house. The realtor called me last minute, and even she said, "Oh, I don't think it needs a lot. It doesn't need a lot." I'm like, "You didn't notice these clown masks when you first walk in?" So that's something to consider because it might turn some people off.
Yeah.
And definitely other things like making sure you get rid of all your dead plants. Anything that looks kind of unkempt. It'll showcase that the house wasn't, kept after well. And if you have bookshelves, a lot of people have bookshelves and load things up on them with a lot of books and a lot of trinkets. What the rule of thumb is, 50% of what you have on a bookshelf, you should take down for staging. Just get rid of it. Pack it up. You're moving anyway. Get rid of it. Take it down so it looks a little cleaner.
Without a doubt.
Declutter.
Declutter, that's a big one for staging. And, not everyone needs that. A lot of houses, especially occupied houses.
Will you guys vacuum or no?
We vacuum up after ourselves, but we won't, if the house needs more of a deeper cleaning. Like I've had a realtor tell me, look, before you go see this house, I don't know if the lady's vision is that good, but the house is really dirty. Can you please mention it? Because I don't want to be the one to tell her house is dirty. Yeah. So if it's something like that, we'll mention it very nicely.
How do you come in and deal with some of these sellers where you're not trying to insult them, but we're trying to get their house to show the best?
Yeah. It's a trick I've learned over the years. I'm a very easygoing person. I'm very nice, and they can see that coming in. I'm not there to critique them and ride them. So I present everything in a very nice way. I'll compliment them and tell them what is good about the room or the house, and then say, you might want to run into this issue before. The way you have this set up isn't the best. That might be something you want to address. So it's never, it shouldn't come across as a critique. And honestly, they've hired me, or the realtors hired me to help them. And that's kind of what we like to do, help people get to whatever their next move is, you know, if they're moving on to their home or getting a different home. So we're there to just to help, and we presented it as a very helpful, you know, service that hopefully will get them to where they're going next.
All right, cool. Well, Denise, we really appreciate your time. Now, how could you know, how can our viewers get a hold of you for some home staging?
They can call me at our phone number is 914-497-0924, and Cameo Homestaging and Design.com. They could give us an email or follow us on social media.
Awesome, cool. Well, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and thank you guys for for watching.
See you next time.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.